Today I'm talking with Dr. Aubrey Wallace. Dr. Wallace is a naturopathic physician and medical intuitive. We're going to talk about her journey to become a healer, how she found ways that all these interesting things that she loves about the body, about biology, about neuroscience, how all that fit together into what she can now offer to her clients. She's a third generation healer, so we'll talk about the lineage of healers that came before her, and then really take a deep dive into her work, embodied health, body maps, live blood analysis, and talking about how she downloaded a lot of the information that she is now utilizing or working on from her spirit guides and from channeling. This is a beautiful conversation. We talked about a lot of amazing things that weren't even on topic, and I just loved the tangents and how everything manifested and came together. So I really hope you get something out of the conversation. We'll see you on the other side. But first, a message from our sponsor. Our healing journey can be difficult and might feel lonely at times. That's why I love sound baths. When we can get together in a community, we intrinsically support and feel supported by others. And that combined energy can help us go deeper into our own healing journeys. And all you have to do is just lay there for 1 hour and listen to beautiful healing sounds. I'm a sound healing practitioner, and I hold sound baths on a regular basis in the greater Seattle area. You can find my next sound baths on my website at adamrealhealing.com. That's Adam, A-D-A-M, Real, R-I-E-H-L, Healing, Healing.com. AdamRealHealing.com. Your healing is worth your time. Anamkara is a gorgeous meditation and healing center, offering daily in-person and virtual services to help bring you back to the center of who you truly are. They serve through a collective of practitioners, healers, and teachers, offering daily meditation classes, one-on-one healing sessions, workshops, personal ceremonies, and private events, plus corporate and team training, all with mindfulness at the core. The center itself is located in the heart of downtown Spokane. Every part of it was built, designed, and curated for you to drop into your calm place. They have a large community space for daily meditation classes and workshops, as well as 2 one-on-one healing rooms, a community kitchen to gather for tea, plus a well-stocked apothecary for you to gather all of your self-care and ritual needs. Hannah Talbot, the owner and founder of Anamkara, dreamed of opening this space for years. It is her ultimate manifestation, and she cannot wait to share it with those in the Spokane community, but also through the virtual ethers, wherever you may be. Pop in for a class today. You can follow them on Instagram to book and stay up to date. Check out the website, the full schedule, meet the practitioners, and view all the offerings. Visit them at anamkarahealing.center. Anamkara. May you be nourished and ignited. And now an uninterrupted podcast with Dr. Aubrey Wallace. All right, welcome back to the show. Today I'm talking with Dr. Aubrey Wallace. Dr. Wallace was introduced to me by a repeat guest and mutual friend, Miss Hannah Talbot. And so Dr. Wallace is located up in Washington area in the Everett, right? She's a naturopathic physician, medical intuitive, Reiki master, which is right up my alley. That's, I think, the one thing that we have mutually in common there. And then bachelor's in cell biology and neuroscience. Like you, so we were talking about actualization moments before we hit record. And one of the things that I love when I look at people and what they do and what they're working on is how all of the weird stuff that seemingly doesn't fit together in anybody else's mind fits together in somebody's mind. And that's those actualization moments. We talk about that a lot on the show is, how does all the weird shit that we love manifest itself into a presentable package to humanity? And in my opinion, that's a lot of the reason why we're here, is to figure out why, in my case, why music, why sound healing, why energy work, why reading about shit that I can barely understand the words to, all that stuff like mixes together to create some kind of modality that I can offer to my clients, and then they receive the help that they need on their personal healing journey. Yes. Right. So I've said this before. I am not a healer. I'm there to help people heal. Like, you're your own healer. Like, I'll hold your hand. I'll give you the tools. Right. But it's your bricks to move, your wall to take down. Right. Yes. And so I think, the more that we can start to tap into these unique passions that we have, that's where we start to find the juice and the magic of why we're here, what we have to offer humanity.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for doing what you do. You're an awesome person.
Thank you I can see your heart coming through this. And you seem like you bring expression out of people beautifully.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So you've, there's so much that when I started looking into your work and you as a person and talking to Hannah about who you are, there's so much that lit up in me, and a lot of it is because you practice things that I don't even know about, and I love that. I love
What is
finding
she
people.
doing?
Yeah, totally. It's like, what is this? What is that word? What is this thing you're doing? And so that's my favorite way to learn is through conversation,
Awesome.
right? And so we have cool conversations with great people. We can walk away with so much knowledge that a bachelor's, a master's, or whatever degree won't give you, because this is real time information sharing between human beings, right?
Yeah.
And so I love open conversations. That's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, was to just talk to cool people and see how we can all just work together in some kind of way, right?
It's powerful.
Yeah, it's beautiful stuff. So for you, you're a third generation healer, which is one of those first red flags. It was like, that's awesome. You've come from a lineage of all these beautiful healers in some modality to give you this kind of like this start to be able to follow the passion that's inside your heart. Yeah. So can you talk to a little bit about like how you kind of move towards healing and maybe some of the support you've received from the lineage of your healers?
Absolutely. So it's 3 that we know of
Yeah.
that are still alive. I come from a bunch of weird Scottish women. I grew up in a weird way. I grew up off the grid in Montana.
Oh, beautiful.
My parents spent my childhood building a solar underground pyramid.
Whoa, how big?
It's a house. So it's built into a cliff and passive solar in the front. They were in the Peace Corps in India, and so came back kind of strange.
Yeah. Good strange.
Yeah, good strange. So
is that house still there?
It is.
Oh
yeah,
God.
It's never probably not going to be there. It's pretty sturdy. Wow. So yeah, so they were big visionaries of changing sustainability. And my mother and my aunts, however, were doing women's workshops in the wilderness of Absaroka, Montana.
Wow.
They called them Live the Leap,
Okay.
which is essentially just a bunch of women coming in and healing together. So I was mentored by my aunts.
What time frame was that in?
I became a Reiki master at 18. So
Holy
that
cow.
was, oh goodness, don't make me do
No, I won't make you do that. But, just...
I was trying to think I'm not good at dates. So let's see, that would have been probably 98, maybe. Yeah, so I started working professionally doing healing work in 98. I also became a massage therapist around that time, the year after. And I had a 10-year career doing hands-on work. My aunt, my mother, and my other aunt, we learned a lot about what healing is and isn't. One of my aunts actually had some challenges, and we learned about what to not invite into the healing circles.
Yes.
And not being the PhD of the ego, and learning to be humble and clear.
Yeah. With that statement, because that's a beautiful statement that I think a lot of people that step into this realm kind of maybe either turn a blind eye to or hope is not really there.
Yeah.
But it's and I don't want to say darkness, because darkness and light is just a construct, right? But there is maybe shenanigan magic, right? Shenanigan energy, right?
Polarities, yeah.
Right, yeah. There's the energy of the consciousness of like where we can understand what's around us and what's coming in and what's going out. But there's like my spiritual mentor, for example, talks about how if you're not conscious about life, then that leaves yourself kind of open to these different types of entities to come in and then utilize your energy for their needs. And so that kind of like that darkness that not a lot of people like think is there. They hope it's all just love and light, but there's still that. And again, it's a construct, so maybe it doesn't mean like demonic, devilish stuff, but it's outside of the path that you're wanting to kind of maybe move towards.
Absolutely, and that's a really broad topic, but to me, it's kind of like we have a regular. This level of consciousness has jungles, right? And when we move past this level, we also have complex jungles of reality.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that the polarity doesn't exist, but as we work up different, you have dark and light here, and then you have the potential to create reality up here, and then you have lots of realms of things that don't necessarily play with us from here to here, or do. And what I have learned from my generations of healers is be grounded, stay connected to nature, keep your values. Be kind to your ego. Like, carry it lovingly,
Yeah.
right? Don't destroy it. Don't
Yeah.
enmesh it. Don't put it on a pedestal as the highest spiritual person on the day,
Yeah.
right? Just be present as a human, and loving, I guess, would be the top two that seem to work. And then show up and trust spirit. Spirit can get you through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ego part that you mentioned, I think it's a topic that keeps coming up a lot. And
I believe you.
You know, and it's when I first started. So I've been on my healing journey now for about 10 years. About 32 is when I started. And one of the first things I remember hearing, and even before then, in my 20s, when I was very unconscious to what was going on with all this stuff, I kept hearing the kill the ego mentality, right?
Yeah.
Kill your ego, kill your ego. And I can't say that I didn't buy into that, because my ego was out of control, and it was flared, and it was controlling everything, and it was driving the boat, and it didn't need to.
Yeah.
And so I went on that path to kill the ego, like through yoga, through body movement, through plant medicines.
Yep.
And every time I tried to get the spiritual crowbar out and pry that dude out, no, he held on tight and pleaded
Thank
his
goodness.
case. Yeah, exactly. Because it
That's
got
your
to the
mind.
point where it's like,
You need that.
I
Yeah.
need this.
Yes.
I need this, right? And I have a show coming out, an episode coming out next week with a musician named Alan Stone.
Yes.
Where he talks
Awesome.
about, great guy.
Yeah.
And he talks about, like, you need ego to step up, in his example, on stage and show
Yes.
that you have a musical talent that you want to express. But if you let that ego continue to drive, that's where we get those God complexes. And it's like,
Exactly.
look at me, I'm the showman, look at me, I'm the person with the talent. But okay, yes, your talent got you there, but it's your honoring of the skill that you have that's going to continue to keep you there.
Absolutely. And we're bigger than our minds, right?
Yeah.
Our minds are really helpful. Keep your mind.
Yes,
It works.
right.
It's also really nice for going through your day.
Yes.
But it doesn't need to believe that it leads the show. And we're complicated and beautiful.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. So so was it your aunts that were the lineage?
I do.
That kind of,
Yes.
Okay.
So I have my grandmother worked with. She was into kind of the. Oh, his name's gone. That's interesting. Maybe I'm not supposed to say it. My grandfather had a stroke, and my grandmother at the time was really working with a rabbi, even not healers, to come in and get him out of a coma. And so I have that in her generation. And then my mom has 4 sisters, and all of them were doing some version of weirdness.
Wow.
My Aunt Kathleen, my namesake, is my primary mentor. She's still doing healing.
Okay.
And my mother is a different kind of healer and awesome. She's living in her pyramid
Okay.
over there in Montana
There you
still.
go.
Yeah. I also am a little bit of a weirdo. I had an NDE when I was little.
Okay.
And so that's a near death.
Yeah.
And
How old were you?
I was 5.
Oh, wow.
And I had some medical trauma and
Okay.
then died.
Oh, wow.
And had what I call is an experience where I connected with my angel. I call her my angel. I don't know
Okay.
what to call her. But got a little help at that
Yeah.
point. And that accelerated things a bit.
Yeah. Do you still remember the experience that you had, and like, was it kind of vivid? Being 5 years old, I mean, I don't remember anything from 5.
Yes, I do. Well, it was a fairly traumatic
Right.
experience. And so I remember it kind of like those trauma pieces. And then I remember the angel coming in. And I remember years later, I have blocked and shut down a lot during my childhood. And years later, I watched the movie The Abyss. And when I don't know if you've seen that, but yeah, that angel came to pick him up, and I just like wept for like 2 hours, because my angel looked a lot like that weird alien one.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
almost exactly. And it was like, wow, someone else has seen what I've seen, you know?
Yeah.
And it's interesting to have those things correlate. But yeah, since then I've really worked, I'm strongly empathic. And so I've had to spend a lot of time working with my own healing, being able to pick up pain from others. I was
Right.
able to do a lot of healing for them, but I was on a journey to learn for myself how to keep myself clear. And I call it emotional hygiene. Keep yourself clean, jelly bean.
That
right?
is
Yeah.
such a beautiful statement.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I know we're already tangenting, but like, emotional hygiene is again, that's another subject that's kind of been coming up a little bit in the talks that I've had, and it's such a beautiful statement. It's such a
Yeah.
beautiful concept. And again, it's something I don't think a lot of us really think about as we start entering into these realms
Yeah.
about how we need to maintain our own energies, cleansing ourselves, like just
Yes.
making sure we're within the constitution that we want to be in so we can deliver and provide for the way we want to.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, sanitation changed medicine, right? Changed us from being, little viral things to cleaner and clearer. And same thing on the energy level as we move to that next level. I think there's a lot of talk about empaths being, like I am an empath and I am the great empath. And empath to me means that you have an ability to hear or in a different way, a capacity to feel your environment. And you have to keep it clean. Empaths are like a clear window or like an open sky, right? And we do often feel very emotional because we feel the wave of whatever we're hitting, right? So if we remember and recognize, it becomes very simple just to kind of just come back to us and center in us. I think we need empaths. I think we need an increase in empathy to connect with each other,
Right.
so that we can move to the next kind of evolutionary collection of us.
Yes.
And it bypasses the crap.
Yeah.
It's hard to be sticking in pride when you're hurting with that person, right?
Yeah. There's a doctor I follow named Dr. Zach Bush. I'm not
Yes,
sure, right?
I've heard of Zach Bush.
Zach.
Yeah,
He's
of course.
just a lot of different things he talks about really land in a beautiful way with me.
Yeah.
But one of the things he talks about, I listened to a podcast with him a while back, and he was talking about, and I can't remember the exact culture, but he was talking about an indigenous prophecy.
Heck yeah.
About how between the time of 2017 and 2027, that 10-year period, humanity is going to breed out the genes that allow us to understand guilt and fear.
Ooh, that would be nice.
Right.
Let's do that.
And so, like, all that guilt that we feel about the shit that we didn't do, blah, 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 the stories we create, and all the fear about, like right now, like we're afraid of things that we've never been afraid of because their DNA just gets passed down. And like, we're afraid of the dark, we're afraid of snakes, we're afraid of spiders because like cavemen and cavewomen back hundreds and thousands of years ago were afraid of that, and it's kind of just carried over, right?
Yeah.
And so we're getting to a point to where like that survival skill doesn't need to be there anymore, right? We can go outside, and for the most part, a lot of the population can't, but for the most part, we can go outside and feel safe. We're not going to get mauled by a tiger. We're not going to get, like all this shit's not going to happen. We go out, stretch our arms, and be like, it's a beautiful day. This is great. Nothing's hiding behind that rock. My car's going to start. Everything's going to be cool, right? So a lot of those motions that we've kind of carried over, maybe they don't serve the best purpose anymore. And maybe they're holding us back from that next step of what we're moving towards.
I agree. I think I'm kind of a weird biology nerd, right?
Cool.
So I think the way that fear serves us is to kind of give us that kind of stress catalyst so that we can step up and grow to that next level, because we all have fear, and fear needs to never, fear's an asshole, it'll lie to your face. That's what they say, right?
Yes, right.
So yeah, but you have to look at it right in the face and catch it and say, yeah, there's fear, and I trust, I think trust is a choice. So you move through and let the fear inform you of where you want to grow next would be the best way to think about that for me. Yeah.
I think it's bell hooks the quote comes from, but there's an old quote that basically goes, all emotions are okay, all behaviors are not.
Yes.
Right. And so when we can hear the message of, say, fear, right?
Yes.
We can hear the message of fear, because fear has a message for you, right? You
It
don't have
does.
to act on it.
It is specific.
But listen to it, right?
Exactly.
And the way I look at that is like, with my kids, if I push my kids, dad, leave me alone. Give me some time. I don't need time. It's going to amplify their desire to want to talk to me. Dad, I got
Absolutely.
some shit to say. Dad, I got some shit to
Hello.
say. And then all of a sudden it's like, Dad, blah, right?
Yes.
Here's the thing. And it's like, well, God damn it, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
So, but if we can listen to that emotion, listen to that child, we don't have to act on what they're saying, but just give them the space to be heard.
Yes.
Then that emotion doesn't come out in a nasty, shitty argument later as behavior that you're not proud of, right? That fear all of a sudden sinks into an argument, and you're like, you lash out at your spouse or your best friend or whatever for no reason at all. And so if we can take that message and just hear it, compartmentalize it, maybe flag it for later, right? That's a good thought. We'll think about that later. But hear it.
Yes.
And then we have the discernment to choose whether or not to act on it, instead of it just like,
I like to say, don't worry, it'll get worse. So even if you miss it that first time, right, there's still going to be an opportunity for it to become resonant for you. Yeah. So it's, there's nothing more beautiful than parenting to bring us every trigger of our life,
Every damn
right?
thing.
At always. And what a beautiful growth medium.
It is.
Yeah. So
It's that old adage, your teachers manifest themselves in the strangest of ways.
Oh.
Like, I never thought I'd have a prepubescent teacher, but goddamn, I got 2 of them.
Oh, you do. Good luck. Yes. Best ones of all.
Oh,
And they
teach us all the
grow
things.
forever, hopefully, God willing.
Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, man. So, back to your journey.
What are we talking?
Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
love this. This is tangents. So you've moved through energy work. You've moved through biology. And how did you finally land on naturopathic and medical intuitiveness? And that's
Yeah.
one that I
Where
really
did
want
that
to
come
dive into because that's amazing.
Absolutely. So I decided actually to become a naturopathic doctor after years of thinking about it
Okay.
because I wanted to teach. And the naturopathic doctors I knew in my own personal life, I knew lots of chiropractors, lots of MDs. I just found them to be the most out-of-the-box thinkers and deeply intelligent. I didn't even gel with their philosophy very much until I got into school. And then I was like, like, look at these weirdos.
Right?
Yeah, they are, I've always been I was raised in nature. I love the elements. I feel like I came in early saying, God is in around us, and nature shows that all the time. And so it was nice to see a type of medicine that was, although naturopathic medicine still kind of fights, we still fight a little there, but their philosophy is one of nature heals, your body heals itself. And they have the determinants of health. And that part, if you can get your determinants right, then the health will return.
Nice.
And I liked that a lot. I also deeply fell in love with homeopathy. Geeked out on homeopathy. So don't even get me started on that one. But I loved homeopathy. I had no idea how cool that was.
Yeah.
And I've always just loved learning. Like I'm just my brain. I like to eat the
Yeah.
food.
Devour it.
Eat all of the information. Yes. So that was exciting. And then, but naturopathic medical school isn't a walk in the park. And my father actually died the first quarter I was in school of
man.
cancer. And it just drove me. It was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I also had my daughter was 5 at the time.
Okay.
And they have been a big motivator for me too.
Good.
And after school, though, I pushed myself really hard through school, and then I kind of had a little breakdown.
Okay.
So after school finished, I got my degree, and I got passed the test, and then I was like, who am I? Like, what am I doing?
Right.
And I sat down, and I do a lot of meditating, and my guides were like, you're going to download an energetic system now. So I was like, great.
Yeah.
And so I spent 40 days every day. I just started drawing these drawings. And they were channeling me a whole system of it's kind of a chakra. It's a system that has to do with the chakra system, but it helps integrate it basically. Okay. And I haven't brought that out to the world yet.
Oh, okay.
Just to myself.
All right. That's something you're still kind of working on internally and understanding?
It's been 12 years,
Wow.
but or whatever. How many years? I graduated in 2013, so whatever that is. Wow. And I'm always learning it. But after that happened, I've always been able to empathically feel what people are experiencing, and once you touch 1,000 people on a massage table, you have a different way of being, as I'm sure you know.
Most
Yes,
definitely.
you just learn from people. And then they started giving this to me, though, in pictures. And my medical intuition at that time, I was able to integrate art in, and it comes in a lot of colors and just specific images. And it has developed now into what I call the Embody map, which is basically it's a picture that helps the guides give you a snapshot of where your health, to focus on bringing your health forward.
Okay.
So that can be everything. At the beginning, it was a lot of, all the things that were wrong and which level of the energy field. And now sometimes it's just like, yesterday, a guitar. Right?
Okay.
Drawing a guitar for this person on their health map, and then don't understand why I am drawing a guitar until I talk to them and the entire core of their problem is their marriage to the bass player that has caused them the heartbreak,
Yeah.
right? So there's the idea with the Embody maps is focus here on what's bringing health, not what's causing illness. Medical intuition for me is a little different than just reading the field and saying this is wrong, although I can do that a bit. I can do that as a doctor. So I like to diagnose as a doctor because I have the tools and the training. But then I like to use the medical intuition to get to not what's the illness, but actually what will bring health. And so I call it a window of health.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's it's like the opposite of the way we're looking at it now, right? So let's say we have pneumonia. Let's give you an antibiotic, clear cut out all the bacteria, and we'll start new. Okay, well we've shown that sucks, right? There's studies out now.
Sometimes it's really helpful, but
right?
yeah.
But I've read a study recently that was talking about how if you take antibiotics, one cycle of antibiotics, within that first 12 months of that cycle that you've taken, you're 24% more likely to experience severe depression. And if you double that, you're doubling that, basically 44%. And so
our microbiome makes our serotonin and a lot of our dopamine. Yeah.
So we're just cutting all that stuff out.
Just hurting the bugs.
And so one of the approaches I've heard recently, which is still hypothesis and still working on, but it's the adaptogen side, right? So instead of cutting everything out, what can we do to support what's left in there, right? So if you have pneumonia, how can we add something to it so that other bacteria doesn't realize it's all alone and creating all this havoc? It can say, oh, look, there's support, and we can balance out, and then that flare up goes down, right? And I'm like, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I've never been to medical school. I just read. I love to read, but it sounds great. I'm like, that sounds amazing.
And I would take it even further, and I would say, listen to the pneumonia. Why do you have that perfect illness for you? And what is it that the body's trying to communicate with you there? Because I find that bodies never do anything on accident, right? And sometimes we do get hit with COVID or like some crazy thing systemically and collectively, but also that, are we mutating as a collective? I don't know, maybe.
Right.
But the information is always there in the body. So first go in and listen and then even in that, so you can have a pneumonia if someone has a pneumonia, and I know it's I've got a viral infection, bacterial infection, or whatever it is, and I go in, the first thing I ask I ask the bug, are you here to help or are you here to hurt? Wow. And the bugs are like, I'm here to hurt. Get out of my way. And then if they're here to hurt that person, I'm going to use antibiotics.
There you go.
We're going to take it down. Or herbs. I tend to use homeopathy and herbs.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, but we're going to knock it down, right? But the only time you should fight is when it's a fight.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's there to say, I need this person to lay down. I need this entire person's family to heal because I need to be in a different role than I have been in the past. I need to remember that I need help in the world. Whatever it is that is the causative intelligence of the illness can be accessed just by listening.
Yeah.
And so much of what I do is just show people what they already know.
Yeah.
I'm like, how about, the guides are telling me this beautiful thing is happening for you. Is that what's happening? And most of the time, the most common thing they say is, yeah. It's so nice to someone can see me.
Yeah.
Right? It's so nice to be seen and heard.
It's so beautiful because sometimes we might feel, because we create stories, right? We love stories. We're storytelling humans, right? We love hearing them. We love telling them.
Powerful.
And when those negative stories, especially when we're in pain and we're suffering, we spin those stories of negativity and then we start to believe them. So somebody like yourself presenting a different outlook, story, right? That's beautiful. And the fact that you said perfect illness. Always. That is a great. I've never heard that, and that's such a beautiful statement, right?
It's
the
always a perfect illness.
Right?
Yes,
that's exactly what it needed to be to get you to the point of understanding what you needed to understand, or whatever it is that you're looking for, and that's. I mean, again, it's just framing it differently.
It's so hard to see sometimes too. And sometimes those perfect illnesses take like 10 years of retrospect, right? Before you're like, oh my gosh, that one healed our generations of our ancestry, right? And there's so much of us that we don't understand or control. It's actually pretty challenging to be a doctor after the medical intuitive, because I can see if I just go in and listen, if I get 68% ancestral pattern, and There's not anything I have a tool for in doctor land
Yeah.
for ancestral pattern. That's really challenging as doctors. I mean, I think doctors are trying really hard to get a little tiny they've got about this much of a range to work within and about this much time and a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And they do pretty well considering what's on them.
Yeah, right,
But
exactly.
there's so much more. And actually the person's who heals.
Yeah.
So the person is the one that needs to listen to themselves. That's my passion. Getting people to understand what's going on inside of them and listen to it and trust
Definitely.
it. Yeah.
There's something you said just a moment ago about how the illness might not be for the person that's ill.
There are community illnesses.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I shared before we hit record, but my mom passed away in September from cancer.
Yes.
And so she fought. She did the medicine, chemo, all that stuff, and then I think it was about August. Beginning of August, she's like, it's getting worse, spread to the bone, spread to the heart. Like, we're going to stop the medicine, pump me full of pain meds, and we'll just do this. We'll go out peacefully. And we're all cool.
I hope she did.
She did. Yeah, she
Good.
did. There was a struggle. The lungs filled up with fluids. So, I mean,
That's
but
hard.
she was out of pain for the most part.
Good.
But to the point you were making about the illness was for others, right?
Yes.
So she kept waking up, and I've sat by now 2 people as they passed.
What a gift.
It was really, really tough, but it's beautiful, right? There's so many beautiful moments that happen in those.
Yes.
And so she would be sleeping for a while, and then she'd just wake up. We had her in the living room in a hospice care at home, and she'd just wake up, look around, and she'd be like, "This again? I'm still fucking here." And I'm like, "I know, Mom. I'm sorry,
Waking up in the wrong one.
She's like, "I'm
go
done.
Back,
What
go
the fuck
back.
is going
What can
on?"
we be done?
But there was the closer she got, and she had a couple more of those moments. She would wake up and she would say, "She's like, there's a door in the way." And I'm like, "Oh, tell me about the door."
Yes.
Because she's on the veil, right? She sees
Absolutely.
shit I don't see. So I'm like, "Well, tell me about that door." And she's like, "It's dirty." It's really, she kind of smiled. She's like, "It's a dirty door. It's just filthy, and I can't clean it." And immediately I'm like, "Mom, that's not your door to clean.
Yeah.
That's
Is
our
it
door
yours
to
to
clean.
do? Yeah.
Right? You're here. You're sticking around after you're ready to go. You're done, right? You're done with this life. You're ready to explore that next life, but you're still here, and you're fed up with that shit. But you're still here because your family needs to learn how to be empathic towards your passing and how to find the way that sits with them as you go, right?" And so it was such a mind-blowing experience for me. I actually got the tattoo of the dirty door on my hand, my depiction of what a dirty door felt like, So like as soon as she passed, like
That's
a month later,
beautiful,
I got
by
that.
the way. And
Thank
she
you.
is so proud of you, by
Yeah,
the way.
I feel her all the time.
Shining
she
all
used to,
over
She used
you.
to pull my little chin hairs and like my Adam, and so I feel that every once in a while. So I just love it.
Raining on you.
But that was one of the first things where it hit me of like, this isn't yours. This is ours.
Yes.
This is the family's stuff to figure out, right?
That
You've
is
done your job.
That also keeps the connection of the whole family. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's hard. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful and hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, I think we need those moments. We need those moments to remind us, to get us out of the stories, to get us out of the hustle and bustle, the grind, whatever you want to call, whatever verb you want to use for it.
Bullshit.
Right, exactly.
And human.
Totally.
Yeah.
And just remind ourselves that like
This matters.
This matters, right? Yes. The person sitting across from me matters.
Yes.
My kids, right? The
So
things that
much.
I'm like, why are we working so hard? For whatever reason, but like look at what that reason is, and are you really working towards that as your reason?
Yeah.
For me, I always thought I was doing right by working my ass off, working 90 hours a week for my 2 kids, but then I realized I was seeing my work family more than I saw my actual family. And I bastardized relationships and all this stuff because of what I felt like I should be doing.
That's what I call a system of stress. Meaning that, that's a drive from our culture. Very strong one.
Yeah.
And some of those, we have lots of those on us. Yeah. And sometimes it takes a whole family unit to be like, this isn't working. And it isn't out of lack of effort, right? Or out of putting all of you in, all the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so in the field that you're in now and the clients that you work with, and do you feel, and this is just a broad question.
Yeah.
So there's that work ethic mentality right now that we have, right?
Absolutely.
Where we're just work. We drive. We want to innovate. We want to create. There's CEOs that work, 80, 90 hours a week and then expect that same thing of their staff members and blah, blah, blah. So, and that's idolized, right? A lot of that's
It
idolized.
is.
Is like, man, I wish I could do that. Where's my productivity like that? I wish I could only sleep 3 hours a day. Well, fuck that.
Because
So
we're never enough.
right,
Ever.
yeah,
Yeah.
never. Even if we get to that point, we'd still want to be better, quote unquote.
That's the wheel, right?
Yeah. And
So,
so-
if that's generated by greed, I think.
Yes.
Yes. So
And I've talked to this for the few clients that I've picked up recently that have that kind of mentality.
Yes.
And what I'm finding is that's their coping mechanism for not facing their healing, right? For not facing their traumas, right?
it's also a huge system of stress on them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that isn't necessarily the person's greed that's driving that. You have a system of greed that's perpetuating an unsustainable society that's utilizing the resources of nature. It's degrading medicine, education. Like, would you like me to keep going on the list? I should be nice. We're supposed to be happy. But I think there are a bit of us that are dealing with that, getting into the wheel, right? Getting into that cog. But also many of us are waking up
Yeah.
and all over the place. And I think, honestly, COVID helped with
do.
that quite a bit.
I do.
And it's simple to wake up. You look at your kid or your mom dies of cancer. And then you go, what matters? And who matters? And then you have things like these beautiful trees outside that keep you sustained, right? And you just sit in your house while everyone has COVID and enjoy your trees,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Those things naturally regain health. And when we just allow those systems of greed to fall a little bit, I think naturally we'll start to kind of move together in a more healthy way, cooperative and healthy way.
I think that idea for me, at least where we're at now in humanity, what it makes me think of is the individual is very smart, the masses are ignorant, right? And so because when I talk to, it doesn't matter what political side you're on, what gender you're on, what you recognize as,
Yes.
any of that stuff. 99% of the people I talk to just want to be happy and healthy and
Yes.
have that for their friends and family.
Of
right?
course.
But when you start to get masses of people together and somebody floats an idea out and then all of a sudden somebody says, yeah, and then it's like, it's easier to say, yeah, BIPOC, yeah, anti-LGBTQ, yeah, we don't want drag queens read. Okay. But again, if you ask the individual, they don't fucking care. They're not the one that's going to take their kid to a drag show anyways, or a drag reading of a library book or whatever, right?
Oh, there's so much pissiness.
It's just so much, yeah. But and again, it's that mass kind of appeal, right? And so I think the more we can start to get to the understanding that we are individuals,
Yes.
we had to, so for the past, let's say 60, 70 years of modern economy, we had to more or less be the same, right? That was the way economy was set up, right? We had to kind of do the same things, similar things. We had to act in similar ways so society could grow. And if you weren't acting the way that your neighbor acted, you were kind of outcast, and then you couldn't get food and you couldn't, survive. So, but now that pendulum is swinging back to the individual, right? And one of my favorite quotes
I hope
is,
so.
everybody is unique, but nobody is special. Right. And so we finally get to this pendulum swing to where we can embrace our uniqueness. I don't have to act like my neighbor Frank. I can have long hair and tattoos where he can have short hair and none. Right. We're both still humans. We're both still doing this shit. Right. But when we can embrace our uniqueness, like we talked about earlier, all
Diversity.
those beautiful things that
Yes.
make us who we are, then
Yeah.
we all have our ability to actualize in our own ways and present that package of beauty to humanity that is the reason why we're here, right? And so getting to that point now in humanity where I don't have to be like you can be you, I can be me, but I just don't want me to go to my head because me is unique, but me is also not the most unique and the most special just because I can do what I can do, right? What I can do fits in perfectly with maybe what you can do. And then that combined is like, oh my God, now here's new magic, right? But if we just walk
Something
around thinking
entirely
we're
new.
the only ones, then it's like, that's where we start to take those left turns.
I have kind of a weird, I don't know if it's too far out there, but I like to see everything in terms of the body because I freaking love the body. And I think we're evolving. I think we're in we've been in a first chakra problem for a long time, which is inequity and, greed and racism structures and political problems. A lot of rooted imbalances, right? Then we move to second chakra, which is like us and them. So everything becomes, I am this, you are that, and we have to have a fight, right? And we've moved into third chakra, which is, okay, now we're like getting into these identities. Now I am the mother, I am the father, I am all of these archetypal images and people, and they're diversing, but we're also getting into the egoic version of I am the top of this hierarchy of whatever the heck that is.
Yeah.
And they're not, it doesn't mean you don't still have the first chakra and the second chakra as you move to the heart, which is next, right?
Right.
But as we diversify, to me, cells they have to be individualized. A cell has to specialize, otherwise it's cancer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It de-evolves into something that just consumes and destroys. So we need to be specializing. That means each of us has to uniquely express who we are in our beautiful, diverse way. And we do have to break down these systems of stress that cause fucking racism and cause gender inequality and cause don't
All
get
the
me
above.
yes, all the
Yes.
things, yes, and not also toy with us so that we're just all fighting each other instead of having a general collective response to a power hierarchy. I do think, though, I think as we specialize, we need to pod up. Like the body will have a specialized section of cells. And when those cells get together and they're kind of similar to each other, they become a tissue, right? And so they have this thing that isn't them. They evolve to the next level of cooperative work. And this community has those, but if they want to make an organ, they have to create tissues together. So now we have to have these specialized cells always have to diversify with the other tissues to create this complex organism.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot to talk
Love
about.
it.
How
I
are we
love
doing?
it. Yeah,
okay.
great.
I know,
Yeah.
like, don't go too far.
Nope, keep
but
going.
Yes. So as we get that means two things from us. We've got to be able to steady ourselves in who we are and trust that our way stays solid. And it isn't easy to have those differences in groups because we've been doing competition and hierarchies for a long time.
Yep.
But nature doesn't. Nature's doing cooperation.
Right.
And as we evolve to this next level, we go through a cooperative joining. The nervous system is one of my favorites too, which is the brain works by inhibiting the parts that it doesn't want to express. Okay? So the brain controls our body and it controls it through wiring, right? But it does suppress. It does just say, I want to go this way, so we're going to turn that off. And I think as a collective, you might find as we evolve that we're going to be fear is rising, we're going to turn it off. And we're going to turn on trust, or we're going to turn on cooperation. And some of that other stuff is going to weed out. And I kind of feel like we're weeding out right now as a culture a little bit, right? That's a lot of not understanding that probably, but
No, that's...
okay, yes. Sometimes
you
you just stop the bad by turning on the good. You stop the trauma by coming to the present, right?
Right.
You don't loop that way.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just an inhibition superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like we're moving away from the understanding that we've been in this win-lose metric system. Like for me to win, you have to lose. And for
we're growing past it.
Exactly. It's like, how do we collectively win this game together? How do we continuously play? Like the old book, Finite and Infinite Games, right? It was written in the 80s, and then I think...
Oh, I don't know this.
What's his name? Oh, Simon Sinek recently wrote a book. He's a management kind of like speak guru. He loved Simon Sinek, but he wrote a book recently that's basically Finite and Infinite Games also. But it basically it takes the idea that, okay, so right now we're all playing a finite game, right?
Yes.
Just like you said.
Or we think we are.
Right?
Yeah.
But if we can all collectively say, okay, let's redefine what we consider what success is, right? Does success have to grow every year? Do we have to hit a certain percentage to be successful? Do we have to have inflation? Do we have to always continue, right? Can we just be cool being this, right? Can we just live in this space, right? And be okay with that? And that's...
Or something else, which
Yeah.
is like we can't not have stress, right? That all biological systems have stress to grow.
Right.
And we aren't going to stop growing. So it's not that polarity either, right? It's more like, to me, like a family. Like you're always going to have the 2-year-old consciousness there if there's a 2-year-old there. And then you want to have a parent consciousness there also saying, yeah, let's collaborate. Let's see what we can grow. And then it becomes this next thing that you can't see yet.
Right.
It's an evolutionary leap, right? It will take us to something we don't understand.
It's interesting. Like we're at a point now in humanity where we're not only aware of the fact of the concept of evolution, but we're able to influence
Watching
evolution,
it, we're doing it.
right?
Yeah, it's like fast time.
So fucking crazy
It's
to
so
be a
weird
part of that.
and hard and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's like the idea of the biological evolution, which is, something that we don't really control. But then we have this idea of spiritual evolution, that the consciousness evolution that we're working towards as well, right?
Kind of intertwined, I think.
Most definitely.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because you remember, like, I love the old adage, the priest and the chief, right? So the priest is looked at as the consciousness and the chief is looked at as the body.
Yeah.
And in my personal journey, I put a lot of faith in the priest, right? I'm always in my head. I'm always doing shit in my head, thinking, doing all that stuff. And I forget about the chief. And so in my meditations, it's, okay, take it out of here. Take that priest hat off and put the chief hat on and just like listen to my body. And remember that your body has consciousness. And my body is probably way smarter than my head if I just learned how to listen to it,
I find the body to be very close to an animal.
Yeah.
Like it's an animal consciousness. So it's like trying to deal with your favorite animal. And I usually talk to people about what is your favorite animal.
Okay.
And we have a part of our brain that's very much like a reptile, and we have a part of our brain that's very much like a mammal.
Yeah.
And so we have these different levels too inside that consciousness of talking and listening to the body. And then we have this other level that's more like the chief, right? Which is more like our egoic consciousness of the body that also speaks to us. That part talks in words, but a lot of times the body itself is more like an animal, and you have to care for it at that level. I don't know why I was going off on that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that put it that way before, but it is, because it's like your body is built on instinctualness, like instinctiveness.
It is already a successful community of trillions of little tiny sentient beings, right? And that doesn't even count the microbiome. So your microbiome, it's almost as if we're being, I don't know if we're carrying the bacteria or not, or if they're carrying us, or how we go with that, right?
Yep.
So we have this already collaboration here between those parts of us. And it gets really exciting if you listen down to how much perfection there is. There's also a piece, I think, when we try to compartmentalize it, I don't know, for me at least, the most powerful inner part is rarely the spirit from the level of ego. It's almost always the inner child, right? Or that innocent part of us that just is and comes through and returns us to joy or play or those other parts are so awesome though. So yes, whichever thing needs to lead today, right?
Yeah.
Or in this moment.
So I love the talking about like the teamwork that it takes to build a human, right?
yes.
And I think for so long, and this is another thing that I've listened to Zach Bush, and he talks a lot about this, is how we've kind of demonized viruses, bacteria, and fungus. We keep trying to push all that shit out because it's the human. The human has to survive, right? It's all about the human. Create space so the human can be here, right? But and then within the past 15 or so years, we've realized that mitochondria are external bacteria that populate all of our cells that give us the energy to actually be humans.
Different DNA,
right? Totally different. That blew me away. I was like,
carried from your mom's generation, though. So you have literally passed down all of your mitochondria was passed down through your mother's 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 mother.
Wow.
Right? So you have it in there. Maybe we're carrying them around.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've demonized bacteria, right? We have all these antibacterial shit that we do. We have
we're scared of them.
Viruses, same deal.
Well, we've demonized nature is what we've done.
Yep.
Yeah. That was kind of the beginning of medicine.
Yeah. There's the definition in Webster's dictionary for nature is anything created outside of man.
Yeah.
We've separated ourselves from nature in the definition of what we call nature.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
that's always been so deeply wrong to me from the beginning, because I literally, when I was 5, I came in the house and drew a picture of God for my mother, and it was like a tree with like animals for the eyes and the river for the mouth, and I'm like, Mom, look, and she's like, what is that? And I'm like, it's God.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're weird. Yeah. Whatever.
Where do you think I got it from,
Mom? I love you, child. Yeah. Woo, there goes another one. But Yes, I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? And nature's scary. It'll kill you, except for when it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but it only kills you if it needs to.
and that's a developmental stage, also for humans. We've got to go through this, us and them, good and bad. What's my environment, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, I got to eat it all. And you have a part of your immune system that's trained to fight that, right? This is me. This is not me. It's really helpful to develop the not me.
Yeah.
It's helpful to have your immune system work.
Yes.
We have a barrier there, but then we have to keep going, right? Those are they're tiers of evolution.
Yeah.
So I think we're growing past them.
Yeah. As a doctor in the areas that you work on, and this is just another random question, but with us coming out of, I know, right? I love them too. As we start to come out of COVID and all the things, the mandates are lifting and all this stuff, have you seen, again, as a doctor, have you seen any kind of like change in people's immune responses from wearing masks or not wearing masks? And I'm not trying to demonize or say they're okay one way or the other, but it just, I mean,
the question is how much you want me to say here. So
hey, it's an open conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do something called live blood analysis, which is basically it's a finger prick and you put it onto a slide and you look at it in dark field microscopy, which is able to see a little bit better into the biome and the plasma. And I had an experience during COVID where I had obviously most of the population is vaccinated, and I had a whole bunch of anti-vaxxers that also got referred to me because I'm a weirdo.
Yeah, there you go.
So I had all of these people putting blood on slides, right? And I did get to watch because my anti-vaxxers often did not wear masks and they did not get vaccinated and they got COVID. And my vaccinated people got COVID and got the masks and also had, the vaccines. And frankly, it scared me to death because the vaccinated people, all of the vaccinated people had disorganization of their red cells. Wow. Every single one I had on the slide. And I got very afraid and did not want my family to get vaccinated, even though they did. Yeah. And then at about 6 months, I saw their blood start to regulate again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it cleaned up and the body took care of it. Okay. And I also saw my anti-vaxxer group, their blood did not dysregulate like that. Okay. Then there was a third thing that did the COVID. COVID also came through and looks like a particular pattern on the blood. So no question to me that the vaccine versus non-vaccine was definitely stirring up some rough stuff, and we're seeing a lot of downstream effects of that now. Yep. The masking and not masking, caused more acidity for sure. Right. And I did notice that overall the population of anti-vaxxers, some of them died, right? Yeah. So, and many of these guys died. So I don't know that. I don't have enough data.
Yeah, right on.
But what my opinion has come on it is the vaccinations definitely added some complexity to what's going on in the body as far as immune system being a little more confused and the blood being more dysregulated.
Okay. Yeah,
and masks are a good idea if you are going to spread something to someone else. Please it's a cold virus right now. And actually we're to the point with the mutations on it. My deep opinion on COVID, I don't know if I should say that to the world, is I do think it absolutely was generated by the powers that be. Okay. There are too many pathways there that make it look like it was manufactured. Yeah. However, I kind of think nature said, hold my beer. And then mutated it out of being what they wanted it to be. Okay. Right. And it did. What their problem was, they put it on a coronavirus, which is one of the most mutating viruses known to man. Right. And they did it so it would spread, but the coronavirus mutated. And now it's a cold, right? Pretty much. Yep. It doesn't mean I'm sorry for the people that passed from it. And I think we made a lot of medical errors at the beginning with it. Right. But right now it's done what it's supposed to do. Right. So I think if we would have let it come through the population and possibly taken better care of our people who are immune compromised, instead, that would have been a better choice. But we can never go back.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So
Totally.
now we go forward.
Yep.
I'm dealing with a lot of cardiovascular things now that are
Yeah.
strange, and some kidney tumors that are weird, and all sorts of new things that we haven't had to deal with before.
Yeah.
So COVID's an interesting one.
Yeah, I can imagine, and I think it's we're just starting to see some of those long-term effects from the continued vaccinations and continued boosters, like all that stuff, to see like how it's actually going to sit with the body. But I think the thing I'm most concerned about is humanity's lack of ability to say, "Hey, I'm wrong. Hey, I fucked up." And on both sides, right? I got the first 2 rounds of vaccinations.
Sometimes it's
right?
just obvious.
It is, right? And the more I start
It's
to see
okay.
the information coming out and the tests that have been suppressed and all this stuff, it's like, well, fuck, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I can go to my friends. I was never like a big pusher of all this shit, but I went along with it. And but it's that ability to say, look, hey, we got caught up. We believed we were doing the right thing.
Always.
But okay, let's learn from this. But I think it's the thing I see a lot is people digging their heels into, no, you're still getting wrong information. Not acknowledging that there's now this stuff that's coming out. And again, I think that's part of that person's evolution of journey. But,
medicine also, because medicine is, we call it the practice of medicine for a reason. We have been making mistakes like this through the entire time, right? And I mean, I hear you. I got to the point where I was sitting there going, this is what I'm seeing. I have a doctor's training. I have CDC telling me I have to vaccinate every single person or I'm going to lose my license.
Yeah.
I've got all of these spectrums on it. And I can tell you what I did. I sat down and my guides came in one day and were like, Aubrey, everything is energy.
Yeah.
Get out of the fear. Okay? And I would say that to everybody. I've got my anti-vaxxers too. I've got so many people that are terrified to have, I've had people terrified to eat food with their children because their children were vaccinated and they were not, and they're going to get nanobots. So, oh my God, we're unhealthy every direction, right?
Yeah.
Just listen in. The body should be dead already many times over with the amount of toxins in us. And I mean, that was one thing you learn in school. You're just like, why are we alive?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things. There's so many reasons for us to be dead. And we just aren't. We're just not. And we're resilient as hell. And we're resilient because of our field, because of our energy field. Whatever that piece is that we can't describe, the woo, right?
The woo, yeah.
That woo thing is keeping us going, okay? So if you can forgive, learn, stand in your truth as long as you have it, let go of your truth the minute you realize that it is no longer it, and move on. You don't. It's not about guilt. It's not about shame.
Right.
It's not about polarizing. I personally think that there's a piece with that's trying to facilitate some separation.
Right.
So be careful.
Right. Yep. Totally.
And it's effective sometimes with
can.
these particular. This one's been a party. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that leads me to one of the things you have in your bio about yourself is you use the word docere.
Docere.
Docere
Yes.
as
That's
teacher,
to
doctor as
teach.
teacher. Right.
Yeah.
And I love that because so many times like the doctor is like this omnipotent, like I have the answers and listen to what I say and like, well, where's the back and forth? Where can I talk about this? And then to be completely fair, like when my mom was going through her stuff, we got shit from doctors as far as answers, and we got everything we needed from nurses.
I believe you.
And they because they pull us aside and be like, okay, you never heard this from me, but what they just said is bullshit. Try this, try that. You never heard it from me. And then we try, and it's like we would have success, but lab coat doctor wouldn't be able to do that, but nurse practitioner would be like, hey, try this, right?
And the nurse let me just say, if we didn't have nurses, this would have fallen a long time ago.
Right, yeah.
And whether the good and the bad of that, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Nurses are the medicine most often. And they are also the ones that get to listen.
Yeah.
They get to be in the room. They get to be with the person and get the context. And what doctors are expected to do is have no context, come in, completely based on a series of algorithms that say this is your picture, And what'd you say about that anxious person that in the indigenous, right? Yeah, your doctor should be that part of the brain that comes in and says, ding, 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 ding. These are the things. And I have to tell you, I'm going to speak out for doctors. We are intuitive as hell, okay? And if we make it to the top, it's because we have to be intuitive. We have 10 minutes to figure out what's going on at a life-threatening circumstance. There are very few doctors that don't have a gut on it, or at least got intuition. Many of them are psychic, like crazily psychic, like in the elevator psychic, right? Yeah. So I don't think they're out of the closet. By the way, none of them are out of the closet.
I was going to ask,
I want them out of the closet with me. I'm like, come on, guys.
Come to the party.
Because when I start asking them questions, they're like, yeah, I didn't know I could talk to anybody about that, right? Like I can't tell people, but you have to develop those skills, all levels of skills if you're at that level of care. And they need the nurses. We need the nurses. And being a naturopath is easier in a way because we get to sit and talk. I get to listen. And I get to listen. Because there's just no way to get it very well without listening. And you don't need to necessarily do that if you're a surgeon, right? Surgeons are intuitive too. Just give me a minute. They're like little cool things go in the body, and it's really awesome, right? But there is no way to be the expert of someone else's beingness, but you can reflect it, you can direct it, and that person comes with their beingness to that doctor to say, "Help me." And here's the narrow range of within which I want you to help me. Now help me in here. Right? And the doctor can do that. Okay, I'll help you right here, here, here. But if they're expected to be all of this, what do you got? 80 years. Yeah, good luck with that.
Is intuition talked about in schooling for doctors?
It was in naturopathic school. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. But because it doesn't seem.
I don't know about it. I don't know about MDs. I'm going to guess no.
Okay, because it's funny because I growing up in the South, my only real intuitive talk that I heard was trust your gut. But otherwise, intuition like Claire's, the sights and the sounds and stuff like that was more looked at as like feminine. So it wasn't really talked about.
And weird,
and
right? Spiritualism. And watch stuff. Out the woo-woos.
But then we would always say, but trust your gut. So it's like, it's all this counterintuitive intuition, right? Yeah, you don't have intuition. You don't have that feeling, but
common
you do here.
Sense means sensory that we share. Right? So all through this, we've had common sense. The gut is brilliant. The gut has more of your bacteria that run your neurotransmitters. The gut's running you, for the most part. And we're learning that as our science opens up. But, Ayurveda is a couple thousand, 6,000, 8 something years old, right? So, and let's talk Chinese medicine there too. We have a little bit of history here that isn't the last 200 years of allopathic understanding of science. So we're good. We got some basis in the woo, right? We have a lot of depth on common sense here, and it carries through and carries over.
I hope, because like in talking with you about doctors, I hope we find a way to give doctors more time with the patients, because it seems like they're like, when I first started going through this stuff with my mom, I was very pissed at the doctors.
I understand.
Spend some time in here. Like, what the hell, right? But at the same time, like, realizing an ER doctor is probably going to see tons of patients a day. Like, you've got like just a schedule that you're working through. And
a lot of pressure from a lot of things.
The board members, like all the doctor, like the actual
it's a system.
Humanistic side of it, you know. But I do hope that we can get more towards a public system that can spend more time, like you can, like a naturopath, with your clients and with the patients that you see, so you can see them as a whole person instead of just what the symptoms could be manifesting as.
And I'm even further. I want the person to have that access to themselves. And that's, why I teach intuition, trying to teach this window of health thing. Like, here are your determinants. Everybody needs to sleep. Everybody needs to have some sunshine. Everybody needs to eat plants and food that isn't bad. That's complicated. But, we all know individually a little bit about this. We're carrying our animals around all the time.
Right, yeah.
We can listen to them. And if we can get that, then where the doctors shine in Western medicine is diagnostics and freaking surgeries and emergency medicine. We're the best in the world,
Yeah.
right? So could we just use us for that and not as, pharmacology, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But what if we could actually be healthy mostly and then use illness treatment for illness? And that's okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, it'll get worse. It's already going that way.
Yeah.
Because we can't. Most illness is going chronic now because our acute treatments aren't working on them. Right.
Yeah.
So as this chronic illness thing increases, we learn to do healing differently, and we learn to prevent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With all that you're working with and the modalities that you work with,
Yeah.
just from that last statement, are there things that you're looking to add to your toolbox to kind of help with humans as they continue to, exert these symptoms, or you're starting to see this pattern of things? Like, is there some kind of like modality that you're like, oh, I feel like this would add very nicely to what I'm already offering?
Well, I can tell you my newest geeking out.
Yeah.
I am moving into light therapy really
Okay.
strongly. I've been able to do a couple of trainings with Jacob Lieberman,
Okay.
he wrote the Medicine of Light, I believe it's called. Oh, I'm going to screw up his name. The name of his book.
Yeah.
Sorry, Light Medicine, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, Jacob Lieberman. What I'm understanding now is that light can be used as a homeopathic, which I had no idea before.
Wow.
And it makes me really happy because my body maps are filled with colors, and I didn't understand the full depths of why the colors are on the map and how they impact the person. But light can be utilized to treat imbalance. Light is the foundation of health, right? And they've shown in petri dishes with cancer cells that when we hit the cancer cell with light, the cells that are unhealthy will only absorb a certain spectrum of the light and reflect back different ones.
Okay.
And the healthy cells, the ones that have been normalized or the healthy ones, will absorb the full spectrum of light.
Okay.
And that's interesting.
That is really
right?
interesting,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he's been doing this work for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's been working with what kind of light can be utilized to challenge and improve us on the cellular level of health.
Wow. So that's like introducing an external light source of some sort to our cells, or?
So part of that weird system I downloaded.
Yep. Okay. All right.
I didn't understand it, but I drew all these points on the body and they all had different colors. And I'm like, what is this? And how does this work?
Yeah.
I did see that they were neurolymphatic points and they all have particular color schemes. And I assumed the one I drew was myself. But I don't think it requires even using a light device. I think it can be utilized through intuition. So I can show you if you like.
Yeah.
So let's see. I want you to pick a color.
Okay.
Okay? Now I want you to imagine a big, huge sphere of that color right in front of you.
Okay.
Okay. And now, there we go. And now I just want you to feel your body's response to it. Does it like it? Does it not like it?
Yeah, I think it likes it.
Okay, so really listen.
Well, maybe it doesn't because I keep coughing.
And that's actually, you probably picked the one that was most homeopathic.
Okay.
If you have some resistance, if your body catches and does a resistance to it, it actually a homeopathic works by increasing the imbalance so that your system goes, oh, that's not me. And then it brings its healing back up.
Okay.
So the one you picked was very likely the one you needed to kind of dose yourself with that color so that your body can help. Oh, this is where I'm needing to look at my imbalance and what isn't me so that I can bring my health back. Now just pick a different, can I pick one for you?
Yeah, please.
Let's try orange.
Okay.
Okay, did you already pick orange?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm picking red though. It's close.
All right, so pick orange.
Okay.
And make a big ball of orange in front of you.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Now feel orange.
Yeah.
Do you see how that one feels different?
it does.
And it's easy.
Yeah.
And it kind of drinks it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want, drink it all the way in. Like get yourself in the middle of the big orange ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's weird. It's like
Still making you cough.
It's don't make me cough. No, to be fair, I was coughing ahead of time.
There we go.
But it's it's interesting to me. It's almost like inducing synesthesia in a way.
Yeah.
Like where you're combining the senses, like, okay, so now you're going to picture the orange sphere, and now you're going to picture your body in that, right? And it's
Yes.
like, wow, okay, so now you have the color on top of the sensory of the feeling on the skin, and it's just like combining all those senses into this like cohesive, beautiful thing.
They've done studies. Klinghard, actually, I don't know if he is, but he's a big weirdo. Good old school Dr. Weirdo.
Okay.
Heated light studies actually putting people in different rooms from each other, and they were genetically linked, but they didn't have anything else.
Yeah.
And he would study putting light onto this person, and it would quantum light up in the other person's readings at the exact moment across time and space. That's quantum.
Yep.
So light is quantum. So
Wow.
we're messing up a little.
Yeah.
So wouldn't it be challenging if all we had to do was give people a light bubble that they imagine to shift their day? And then you have always working with the information that's there. So if you want to play with me, listen to your cough for a second, would you?
Okay.
So just go in and there you go. And just feel and allow. Yeah, there you go. And now you're going to be like, hi, lungs. How are you?
Right. Totally. It went right there.
Yeah. And just, how are your lungs? Just listen to them. What is your favorite animal? Want to pick an animal?
Elephant.
Oh, hell yes. Sorry. Okay. So now you're talking to an elephant, okay? You'd be like, elephant lungs. Yeah. Now feel that. Can you feel the emotion in there?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all this time I'm like, oh gosh, I have a cold, but actually I'm grieving the hell out of something.
Yeah.
And an elephant level is going to be, I'm not going to forget.
Right. Yeah.
And I probably have to carry the matriarchal lineage now.
Yeah.
Yes, of all beautiful things, right? So we think that a virus is simple, and sometimes it's deep grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And it makes so much sense when you say that, because, like when I have the clients that I work with in my energy sessions, there are times that they'll come to me and like have congestion or like body aches and pains and things like
Especially
that.
after working with you.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of what I'm finding is it's that trauma release. We're finding those points of trauma in the
healing.
myofascia, and then it's like it's starting to release, and
It's
then
healing.
through that release, the toxins get released, and all
Or a
this.
healing crisis,
Yeah.
right? It's the body going, hey, sometimes it's just like I'm letting that go. And sometimes it's like, here, I'm showing you.
Yeah,
I'm showing you where to look.
Yeah.
Look here. And then listen here.
yeah,
Yeah, because grief doesn't feel like pneumonia.
Yeah.
It's like going into to me, it's so crazy. I'm just like, that doesn't feel the same as the other thing.
God,
right?
grief, it can hit you at it anywhere. Like, I think I've got
really
it figured
can.
out. I've got it like under control.
What does that mean?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And then all of a sudden, like, a bell chimes, or I see a flower, and I'm like, my mom, or my friend Scott, or my dad who passed away. Like all these, but and I used to lament that. I used to be like, get control of yourself, Adam. Get a hold of yourself.
It's
You're
the
fine.
evidence of love.
Exactly, and that is the moment that I needed to remind myself of how much I loved that person that whatever thing reminded me of, right? And it's that message. Right? There's a message in that the perceived sadness, right? And if you can see the message in that perceived sadness, maybe there's a lot of joy in that, right?
Always,
You can just
always.
decipher
There's
through
a
all that shit.
memory of love, of the importance and significance of that person in your life, and they aren't gone, right? They're all over. My wife is this medium and intuitive, spiritual amazingness, and so as many dead people as I've seen her talk to, they're not gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on their next chapter of life, whatever that means.
They're also woven into you already. Yeah. So they may just be connecting at that moment, right?
Yep.
Just trying to remember, we got you. Still loving you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's one of the most beautiful messages that I've gotten from my mom passing, which reminded me to have this practice for previous people that have passed too. But
Thank you, Mom.
like, how do we? What's the one thing? That's one of the things I love the most about my mom. Right? She had this ability to give you the most attention. Right? You're talking to her. There's nobody else in the room but you. Like all the attention's going to you, and it was beautiful. Right? And so when I look at my mom and what I loved about her, that's one of the things that stands out. And so for my path of like, how do I remember my mom? How does my mom never die inside of me? It's taking those little things that I loved about my mom and finding a way to integrate that into my life. So that now, like when I'm talking to you and we're having this conversation, I can channel my mom and be like, be here, be present with Dr. Aubrey, be right here with her, because this is the person that makes the most impact in your life right now, right? She is the most important thing in your life. You're right in front of that person.
You are the most important thing in your life.
Ah, I love that.
And it's okay for you to have the whole attention on you. Do you know why?
Why?
Because it doesn't matter. It's all a paradox.
Yeah.
And here you are doing this beautiful podcast, and I'm excited to connect with you and talk with you. And of course your mom's coming in, right? To connect and say, hey, Adam, you're doing awesome. Right? Please be you.
Yeah.
To me, if you invite me to tell you what I see, I'd be very happy to
Please,
tell you.
yeah, most definitely.
Your heart is huge, Adam, and you're here bringing expression, and it feels like you feel a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So
I've numbed it for a while, but it's the feelings are there, definitely.
So being an empath means that when you're feeling a lot of it, it is all about you.
Yeah.
At that moment, and that will paradoxically make it about them. It gets interesting, isn't it?
I love that.
You are them right now.
Because it's kind of counterintuitive, because when we think about it's self-centered, right?
Yes,
it's
I
the
do.
ego side. But when you think about it, like you just explained, where it's
Have
you
ever been just you
No.
with that much empathy? Tell me. I want to know. Feel you for a second. What do you feel like all by yourself when you're out in trees? What do you feel like?
You know, it's funny you mentioned that, because like I feel out of place a lot.
I believe you.
Yeah, I feel out of place.
I understand
Yeah.
also, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I feel like, and even on the path that I've been on in trying to embrace who I am, I still feel like I'm out of place, and I feel like I've overstepped boundaries in a way, and I need to reserve myself. And it's this weird thing that I'm constantly working on of like, I think what it boils down to it, honestly, is I'm afraid to step into my authenticity. One, because I think it's very egoic, which I know it's not, but my conditioning has shown me that it is egoic
It's
to be like, hey, look at
dangerous.
me, I'm doing the things. But if you don't fully step into the authenticness of your humanity, what are we fucking doing here? Right? It's kind of like the actualization moments we talked about earlier.
It's
like,
okay. You
find
can't
that.
not be you.
Yeah.
No matter what. Also, if you don't step into your authenticity, you're still authentically not stepping into your authenticity. You're humanly doing your damn best.
Oh, I
Okay?
love this. This is so good.
Also, almost always that's birth trauma. I'm sorry. You might just look at your birth story.
Yep.
Because we always I would give mine, right? So when I do a transition, I do it like I did my birth. And it's one of my games to play. But you might look back. Sometimes that stuff comes in at conception. Sometimes that stuff is like an ancestral pattern that you're playing out in your life. Sometimes it's the actual birth transition where you're like, okay, how do I make this next growth phase? I've learned that I've got to pay attention to everyone else and put myself aside and focus. Whatever those things are, we learn. And those are our stories. Right?
Yeah.
And then we can go back and be like, yay, that was a good story. What story would I like better than that one? Right?
Yeah,
right. So
right.
if I'm like, I'm afraid to step into my authenticity, and then I rework that in my head and just say something like, I'm a little cautious when I step out because I know there's more here. Right?
Yeah.
Even just the same kind of action, but in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't completely fit with these other people, right? Like maybe they're not kind of like me. And maybe there is a group that's more like you around here. And maybe those groups have evolved a little.
Yeah.
And we're coming out now,
Yeah.
right? To find each other and have those conversations. Because it wasn't a reasonable thing to bring your beautiful, as a white male,
Right.
in particular,
Right.
I would guess.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but I haven't been a white male this lifetime. But
Yeah.
it's not, you don't get to come through and be fully heart open, empathic, sensitive, beautiful being of expression with
Yeah.
no limits of what you can express, right?
Yeah.
Bringing forth other people's expressions. That's definitely something weird.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have for my own personal path, when I started to realize kind of the example that you just put out there about like that white male kind of like,
It's hard.
and I
All
was
of them
definitely,
are hard.
it is, yeah, right. Exactly. I can only speak from the white male's perspective. But,
Great, do that.
yeah. Right. But and it's this thing that like, once I found that little bit of awakening for me, and it was
Yeah.
yoga was for me, right?
Yes,
Yoga and meditation was the thing that was like,
Woohoo!
hey, shake you up. Here's some body movement. Here's your body again. Here's your breath.
Elephant.
You're not doing it right, right?
Yes.
But it allowed me to. It allowed me the strength and the clarity to step away from that life. Because
Yes.
I was in restaurants for about 20 years. Hannah and I have very similar experiences in that, upper management, director
Yes.
of operation, all this stuff. And that very masculine go, 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 cutthroat at times.
Darling, you were controlling an elephant.
Yes.
Yeah. So you probably had to get that down.
Yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
as soon as I stepped away from that and started to focus on me
Yeah.
and was able to get some of those stereotypical like stories that I've just been following, thinking I was doing life right, get that out of the way. Yeah. There was a big like mix up and there was a big like shake in like morals and standards and understandings because I've been following this, Western path for so long. But as I started to find that authenticness and, to your point also, the integration of all the sides of us, like
Never
my
done.
ego, I was like, get out,
Never
corporate, we're
done.
done with that.
Yes.
But then at the same time, now it's like, okay, no, I'm integrating all of the stability that corporations taught me because now I'm an independent business owner and now I can see the P&L benefit that I need for myself and the budgeting that I need for myself. Thank you, corporate, for teaching me that shit.
And
you know?
bringing that to the rest of the woo people
Right,
who
totally.
really could use you.
Yep.
Right? Yes, healing acupuncturists, healing accountants.
Yeah.
I want to be like healing everybody. Come healers, come healers.
Yep.
Like let's use all those parts of the brain are so beautiful. Systems are beautiful, except for when they're not.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just getting caught up in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no particular tool that's the best. I don't know. Maybe if you find one, let me know. I bet you're going through a lot of them. I have some I like a lot. And you definitely need to use a screwdriver when you need a screwdriver, not a hammer when you need a screwdriver.
Exactly.
Right? But
like if my guts are hanging out, don't take me to a naturopath.
yes,
Go
maybe
take me
not.
to a surgeon.
Go ahead. Yes. Go to the hospital. Yes.
Everything has its place. And
Yes.
it's understanding. And I
But
think
if you need diet advice, not so much the surgeon. Yeah.
right, yes,
Yes.
everybody, like finding the people that make the most sense to the information that you need, but not. I think a lot of what I've went through myself is the demonization of like, oh, that was so
Always.
wrong.
I
can't
understand.
believe I was on that wrong path, but. There's no
Whew.
real wrong, right? Because, for me, but again, mom lesson was if you can take something away from any experience you've had, it's not a waste of time because you've learned something.
Beautiful failures.
Right?
Big,
Exactly.
beautiful. I have this wonderful woman in my past who taught young elementary schools, and she would just say, "Oops, Dewey over." And it was so childlike and dingy, but it was so good.
Yeah,
She's just like, "Oops."
because it could be that simple.
And when you do that with kids, you notice how they shift, right? Instead of being shamed or being whatever it is that we thought was the best way in the time that we were learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you know what? That's great because this is kind of like what I wanted to wrap up on was Empathic Kids Toolbox.
Oh yeah.
So you offer a myriad of courses. So hygiene for infants we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Development of medical intuition, which is beautiful, and empathic kids toolboxes. And like I could do an episode on every one of these things, but Empathic Kids Toolbox is huge. It's very important for me because, like I work with a lot of kids through yoga and meditation and things like that. A lot of high schools have me come in to do that stuff. And just having the message I always give these kids, and I can tell they're kind of like adults sometimes or whatever, but it's like, learn that you are your own healer. Learn that you can up and down regulate your nervous system by your breath. You can get yourself out of anxiety and depression through meditation. Like you have this superpower inside of you. Like you don't have to wait till you're 42 years old like me to learn that you can do this all yourself. You can learn when you're 19. Like you're 14 right now. You can do this shit, right? And so like I love that you have that is something that you can teach to kids.
Oh, I love kids.
Yeah.
This generation, what I find with this next evolved leap of generation is they already know it. They don't need to learn it. Usually they're looking at the adults going, can I trust you enough to tell you what I already know?
Yep.
They are very peer associated, so they work more like a right brain, less like a left brain. So they're not so much, I need to be an independent individual.
Okay.
They work more like, I understand that we're a collective and that my individual uniqueness is now an avatar, right? Or whatever. I need to project out to you what my individuality is up here so that I can give you some idea that I fit to your box.
Right.
But most of the kids, what I find is not that at all. They already have a collective awareness. They already are evolved. And so majority are empathic, but not all the same way,
Okay.
right? And the biggest thing to do with these kids, in my opinion, is listen to them and figure out how. I think part of why I love them is because, and part of what I feel gifted at is being able to listen on multiple levels, right? Because I can see them, they can see me, and I'm like, you're a dream kid, right?
Yeah.
And you're an artist kid, and you are a science kid, right? And you're talking to dead people all day, right? And whichever thing it is, listening to the kids.
Yeah.
I have found it's been challenging, honestly. All my toolkit for my own adults on emotional hygiene doesn't work for these kids at all.
Okay.
Oftentimes, they literally they'll try the bubble thing, they'll try this thing, that thing, they'll try the nature thing, and they'll just be like, nah. And then they'll be like, I need a particular crystal, and they'll walk over and grab it, and it'll be fine, right? Or the color bubbles, I think, are fun. I like working with the colors with the kids, and they really like colors. Most often, all I have to do with the kids is listen to them long enough that they tell me exactly what they need me to tell them, tell their parents mostly.
Right. Yeah.
So the kids are our teachers on this. So I really enjoy teaching kids.
Yeah.
I found actually teaching the emotional hygiene for adults I can do really well collectively. It's been challenging a little bit with the kids. They want individual time.
Interesting.
And so I've had to figure out how to get these classes going so that I can have that individual time that doesn't fit the shoot out the digital copy version. So this
Right.
one's a lot more one-on-one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, the way you were talking about kids and the connectedness, I've had people on the show before, and I talked to a lot of parents that either are really against things like video games or,
it's
RPGs.
full spectrum. Yep.
Or people that really understand that there's a benefit to them.
Yeah.
And I can't say one's right or one's wrong because they're dealing with the situation of the child that they have, right? And so
Yes.
some kids, and some people, I shouldn't even say kids, dive into an addiction, right?
Absolutely.
Let's just say like alcohol. Like I can't drink alcohol. I quit 4 years ago. If I drink, I'm drinking until I'm drunk and I'm blacking out, then I'm going to do it again, right?
Not your
Some
thing.
people can have a drink.
I
like
understand.
a drink after work, right?
That's not addiction. Yeah.
Right. So, and so again, like everybody has their spectrum, but I feel like there is a really misunderstood benefit for a lot of this technology that we just don't understand right now, like video games or Instagrams or like social media, because there is this connectiveness that we can get. But, I love the idea of the shiny new toy syndrome, right? Like we play with the toy all wrong until we break it and then figure out how to use it right. Like, fire is a good example of that. Like
Yes.
we weren't around when fire was invented or was discovered, I should say. But I like to thought experiment about this one. This is one of my favorite ones. So you have, let's say lightning struck a tree. Tree caught on fire. Cave person was walking by. I was like, oh shit. Oh, I guess that would be warm, right? So we have heat now, right?
Yes.
So we're going to break this branch off that's
fire.
got this orange thing on there and throw it in the cave, and we're going to stay hot. Let's say that went on for a couple years, right? Everybody's just like warming themselves around this big orange thing in the middle. They can see shit now. The saber-toothed tigers are hiding because they can see them. But then all of a sudden one day the family dinosaur dies. It falls into the fire, and they're like, oh, well, we can't waste that. We should probably eat Dino, right? And then all of a sudden, oh my God, we can cook with this shit? Oh my God, now proteins in our brains are connecting and all this stuff is happening and all this stuff, right? So like, how long are we misusing, quote unquote, misusing a tool before we find the right way to use it? And I think a lot of that goes into like the social medias, fast food, for example, advertising, right?
Yes.
We've proven that we can sell crappy things that will kill you and you'll love it. Now, if we can just change that mentality to something that's more beneficial to humanity, we've already got the platform to deliver it. We just got to change the delivery, the thing we're delivering. Right. And so like same idea, like video games might get this bad rap, but they're teaching skills that might be very beneficial in this now AI moving world that we're moving towards, that somebody like me, that's going to be like the blinking VCR clock that my grandparents had when I was like fucking 10 and be like, fix your goddamn clock, So like,
I would love to talk about that, the fire aspect.
yeah, let's do it.
I kind of think that the indigenous, I don't know, what I heard things from my parents when they came back from India, they worked with the indigenous population there, and they had a sense and a knowing of the forest. They knew the tree, they knew the plants that would care for them because they talked to the plants.
Right.
Right? And so I wonder if we were a little bit more aware than we give ourselves credit for. It might have not been a lot of trial and error. It might have been just an understanding of elementals,
Right.
which is fire is this, wind is this, earth is this, right?
Yeah.
Just ancient understanding of basic nature.
Right.
And when we weren't in the way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. There's I remember the ignorance of myself, and I have many ignorant moments, and we'll still have many ignorant moments.
Yay!
But I remember one of my previous ignorant moments when I heard about, like, let's say, like, the Mayans and their ability to reach stars, and I'm like,
Yes.
"These fucking guys, these, it's like, how the fuck do they do that, right?
Yeah.
Now understanding, like, well, and again, I'll take the humanistic way of looking at this is like, okay, well, let's say all humans, not all humans, but let's say my household of humans at night sit down and watch Netflix.
Yes.
So when you take Netflix out of it and your sky is Netflix, you're going to start noticing
do.
all those patterns in life, because that's what our brain does, right? Our brain notices patterns. So Netflix in the sky, we look at that every night. We tell stories. We look at the Milky Way. We look at the star patterns. You figure shit out, right? Especially if that's passed down lineage after lineage after lineage, right? And so, like, there's this understanding that there was this ignorance of, like, oh no, humans can do all that shit, right? We can figure that out.
So-
like when we can open our consciousness up to focus on that, we can figure that out.
Or the aliens came and talked to them or
Or
something.
the alien,
Yeah, possibly.
Quetzalcoatl,
Yeah,
Viracocha,
I
yeah,
never know.
totally, all
Yeah.
these guys, yeah, totally.
I know that I grew up with the stars and no Netflix, and I remember looking at them, and I had ones that I was in love with and ones that I wasn't, and I remember when I first got glasses and I went outside and looked up at the sky, I suddenly thought there was an alien right above me because I could never see the stars. I didn't realize I never could actually see them clearly, and it
Yeah.
was just holding still. And the light of the stars was so different through my glasses, and instead of feeling it, right? I don't know if I didn't talk to aliens in the sky at that point that I'm aware of. I did talk to trees a lot and things like that. But there's the thing that's going through my head too is it ignorance? I mean, ignorance really means just pure innocently not knowing,
Okay.
which is beautiful. And I feel like what you're talking about is actually wisdom. Wisdom means knowing that you don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
If you talk to someone who thinks they know it all,
Yeah.
good
Actually,
luck.
I
Yeah.
heard the other day a breakdown of the word wisdom, and it was pretty. It's not really the etymology of the word, right? But it seemed a little nonsensical, but it also made a lot of sense. So this, I think it was, I can't remember her name now, but Deborah Elizabeth, maybe her name was. But she was talking about the word wisdom, right? And she said, okay, so let's take the first word, whiz, right? Wizard, right? So wizard,
yeah.
right? So wizards, we see wizards as smart, as like,
Magical.
magical, all right? But the second word is dumb. Right? So you have to be a dumb wizard. So
Oh,
basically
yeah.
you realize the ignorance that you have. You realize you don't know everything, and that's where true wisdom comes from, is the recognition of ignorance.
If
And the
you
acceptance of it.
Yeah.
I love that. I was like,
mean-
that's perfect.
think about your wise people,
Yeah.
right? I bet your mom was pretty wise.
Yep.
Yeah. You don't, and think about the ones that are usually at the top of the podium telling you that they know everything. It's a real interesting contrast.
Yeah.
Usually the leader is not the one in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep throwing these adages out there, but one of my favorites, and I keep saying that, is when you meet the Buddha on the road, kill the Buddha. Because
Yes.
when you meet that guru that says, hey, Dr. Aubrey, I got you figured out. Come follow me. I'm going to make you healthy. Run and hide, right? Because
Yes.
that person probably doesn't have your best interest in mind.
Yeah. Don't worry, it'll get worse.
Yeah.
Just be kind to yourself, right? I
Yeah.
think it's okay because I can't even tell you how many times someone has stumbled into the wrong person and it got them exactly where they needed to go.
Right.
It's it's really hard to watch as their loved one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it still is. There's kind of just a wisdom to life itself. Like there's this way of it going that we forget to trust.
Yeah.
I think that was something my mom said when my dad was dying. She's like, trust is a choice.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
If you can say it then.
Yeah, really.
And do it then.
Yeah.
Got some cojones.
Yep.
Girl
'Cause
cojones.
a lot of it is like the getting out of the, to bring it back to the ego where we started with, is getting out of the way of our egos or what we feel we should be doing. instead of where we just need to be, right? And I found myself like when I'm like, no, okay, well, I'll take drinking for example again. No, I've got to go home because I got to have a glass of wine, and I've got to do this because that's the way I relax. But I have this opportunity, let's say, to go to see a show or go to meet a person or whatever. But no, I've already got my egoic mind figured out that I have to do this. So I shut down the opportunity for this beautiful connection that I could have because my mind's already made up to do this. So when for me, get out of my own egoic way of what I feel is best for me, and just kind of open it up to listening to my heart, to listening to my brain, to listen to my gut, and like having all that kind of symbiotic like relationship guide me. And then I think about like Donnie Darko, that big, that big thick, like tube that comes out of his chest and guides him around. I'm like, okay, let's see where we're going here. All right, we're going to the kitchen. All right, fucking hell. It makes a lot more sense.
Also really helpful to have the ego if you have an addiction, because you want the structure, right? Yeah. It's a beautiful structure to not point the big dark thing at your loved ones necessarily or yourself, right? So sometimes it does really help to have control, and sometimes it doesn't help to have control. And I wish it's so variable and individual and present moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the human experience.
Oh yeah. It's never boring.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if it ends, right? We keep growing and growing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause what's that next thing? Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, where's that next little chapter of life or etherealness or, existence takes us?
And maybe just staying curious, I like to talk about the right amygdala. You got to watch me. But the left amygdala is the one everybody talks about with like looping into past trauma. And we catalog all of our life memories by the traumatic events in our life.
Okay.
But we also have a right amygdala. And a right amygdala is always present, doesn't do time, right? And it's looking for delicious all day long. So, we could be a little attention deficit and addictive over there. We want that left one to say, maybe don't do that one again.
Yeah.
But it helps to have this one be present and cushioning and playful and joyful. So when you get into these fear things, it's an easy trick to be like, maybe put your elephant in a tutu and dance. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we want the guy to be like, don't go that way.
Right.
And sometimes we're on Fantasia. Right?
My elephant is going to forever be in a tutu now. Well, Dr. Aubrey, I've loved this conversation.
Thank you.
We tap dance around so many subjects and just amazing
Literally in
things.
ballet.
I love it so much. Yeah, doing in ballet, exactly. Is there any final thoughts you want to leave with the guests? Things that you're working on, ways to find you, anything like that?
Absolutely. You can find me on my website. It's draubreywwallace.com. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming out with a book here soon.
Yes.
My book's called Your Window of Health, and I'm helping, full of intuitive tools just to play with. I like tools. I'm also going to be teaching an intuitive class with Autumn Cara online.
All right.
Starting in May to June, I believe. I think we just changed it to Tuesdays, but awesome. It'll be on my website also. Okay. And then, you can check out that version of me. Medical intuitive readings are on there, live blood and naturopathic, all there.
Perfect. So, well, when your book comes out, if you want a platform to talk about it on, I would love to have you back on.
Yes, I just have to finish it.
I know. Hey, you know what? You're my inspiration. I've been, inadvertently getting authors on my show for the past couple of years, and it's because I have this desire to write a book. I just don't. I haven't sat down the process, and so I think.
Butt in chair is what my coach says. Yes, get it in there, get the typing going. Yeah.
Yep. So people like yourself, you're inspiring me to keep that momentum going. So
thank you for your work.
Thank you for your work. Thanks for what you do. I appreciate getting to know you more and everything you do for humanity. Love it.
You too.
Appreciate you.
All right.
See you next time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for spending time with Dr. Aubrey Wallace and I. Please check out the show notes for ways to get in touch with Dr. Wallace or to learn more about her work. Also, ways to support the show. Obeisance and love. We'll see y'all next time.